Does it seem like our systems of justice are getting hijacked by people with agendas? Well, to one degree or another, yeah, they are. But there's something much bigger going on beneath the surface there, and it's at the spiritual level, and it is to try to keep you from becoming who God created you to be. Welcome to this episode of Interior Life's Going Deeper. I'm Steve Smith. We're taking a look at the spiritual truths that explain the fallen world around us. Good to be with you. Let's open with the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And yes, we're looking in this episode at how the justice system, talking very broadly with the justice system, not literally just our jurisprudence, but even look at all the deplatforming, cancel culture, and so on. What's really going on beneath the surface. A number of the spiritual realities that we're talking about here are very well explained by our free guide to what it means to be human, kind of the owner's manual for ourselves. At the link below, interiorlife.faith/owner's manual, what it means to be human, how our brains are different from our spiritual minds, what were the effects of the fall, how do we reclaim who we're created to be, how do we navigate a fallen world, all that, much more. You'll come away seeing many things differently than perhaps you have before. Back to today. There are all kinds of examples. Again, justice system talking very broadly, whether we're looking at the cake bakers that are getting dragged through the legal systems, or you may be familiar with the case of Mark Houck, who had 20 some odd SWAT team in full regalia show up at his house and scare the daylights out of his family, all on trumped up charges. Or if we look injustices in terms of all of the deplatforming right and left, what's really going on there? And on a side note, I'm talking about any one legal case or any one matter per se and its merits or lack thereof, but broadly there's no doubt that quote-unquote justice is being hijacked to push agendas, but it's deeper than that. We're going to look at the three layers of depth, and really in a very positive way, what it says about who we are, who we're created to be. So you've certainly seen this play out before in different ways. Someone does something that disagrees with the narrative, what's permitted, and how quickly powers and principalities swoop down. There's the race to accuse, there's a race to convict, there's a race to deplatform, there's a race to shout them down. You don't even get to hear different sides of the story. What you're seeing is a very savage response of the spirit of the world. There are three enemies: Satan himself, our fallen nature, and the spirit of the world. In a prior video, actually on AI, ChatGPT, we talk in great detail about the spirit of the world, well worth looking at. The spirit of the world is the various ways that the enemy works through the collectives of the world to drag us all down. Here are three levels at which this plays out. First, you have to understand in our own nature, in our fallen nature, our fallen humanity, we tend to be conformists. If you have any doubt, just think back to your earliest school days. And peer pressure, this was what Lord of the Flies is all about. This is that pack mentality or hive mind, or so on. And it's in our fallen nature that we give into that. We tend to be conformists, as opposed to our true God-given personality. And this is a distinction between our ego and our genuine personality, which includes temperament and a bunch of other things. In interiorlife.faith, in our community, we go into this in great detail in a new session that we have coming out. You might find that of interest. But so at the first level of things, we have our fallen nature that tends to be a conformist. Now what happens? Next layer down, in comes the spirit of the world. The spirit of the world knows this about us, and it plays right to us. And it wants to enslave us in that conformity. Why? The spirit of the world is absolutely opposed to individualism, to standing out. Oh, I know it'll talk all about diversity and tolerance and all that jazz. Don't believe it. The spirit of the world despises people that will step out and act individually, autonomously, follow their conscience. The spirit of the world despises charity. Bernie Sanders famously was on the record for hating charity. Why? Because it seems to imply a disparity. There's always disparities. That's going to be the nature of life. The trick is, what do we do with them? And genuine charity is a beautiful response. The spirit of the world despises genuinely free speech. Oh, they'll do what they can to justify it, and they'll come up with terms like hate speech and so on. But mostly the spirit of the world despises free speech, and this spirit of the world especially despises the authentic practice of religion. Remember Obama and Hillary Clinton trying to reframe religion as just, yes, you can practice worship. In other words, that's fine. You just keep it to yourself, or maybe a little group in a church, but don't you dare think about bringing it out in the public square. You can think of Marx. Marx at least had a little gentler approach. He just disdained religion, the opiate of the masses, and said eventually once we create our beautiful utopia, no one will need it anymore. No one will be so brainwashed by the giant spaghetti guy in the sky. Stalin took it and ran with it, and he came up with this 5-year plan for atheism and just slaughtered people wholesale. That's Marxism when you put it into practice. Point at this second level down, the spirit of the world, it knows we have a weakness, a tendency to fall in line. Don't step outside the line. That's the guy that gets shot. Just stay safely in there. And it works to put the screws to us. And that's what we're seeing with the justice systems in every way, shape, or form. The second anyone looks to get out of line, to crush that person, to send a message. Don't you dare think of doing the same thing. Let's get to the deepest level, though. The deepest level. That's Satan himself. He knows that if I can entrap you, if I can ensnare you in conformity, then I got you. In Dante's Inferno, Dante's looking at the different levels of hell, and the levels get more fierce and more horrific. The deeper you go, the more wicked a life that you had. The first layer of hell is just for the people who were neither good nor bad. You're neither hot nor cold. I spit you out. They're punished by the ways. They're constantly getting stung by bees and hornets because in real life nothing moved them. They never stepped out of their comfort zone and acted. That's what Satan wants. He wants to entrap us and snare us in mediocrity. Why? Because what happens when we give over into our individualism, when we start stepping into that? Well, now we're coming into what's called our true self, and we find that in God. That's where we find our vocation. That's where we find meaning. That's where we find how we reflect Christ to the world. And when we do that, it inevitably starts leading people towards God. Because when you start thinking about your big purpose, do I have a purpose here? Why was I created? What's my end? What am I created for? That leads people to thinking about God. Also, when you start stepping out of your comfort zone, no, I'm not just going to stay in this little secure place where YouTube likes me or the court system likes me or what have you. No, I'm going to step out and speak up and act as I feel called. Well, now you start leaning on God too. You're having that trust. I can't do anything on my own, but I can do all things in Him who strengthens me. So it is the enemy that wants us ensnared in conformity and mediocrity, because then we never discover ourselves. Again, in our Interior Life community, interiorlife.faith, we have a session coming out that gets into the details of what is our personality, what is our temperament and our character, and what are the effects of the fall and our flaws, our woundedness. How do we sort all that out to become exactly what God created us to be? But that is the point of our life here, growing fully into ourselves so we can fully love God, fully love neighbor, fully be available for mission. The enemy wants none of that for us. This was Satan's third temptation of Christ in the desert. Just bow to me. For heaven's sakes, don't go through all that pain and suffering and just to be tortured and crucified. Just bow to me. It's simple. It's simple. Then all of this is yours. That's really what's behind the weaponization of the justice system. That's really what's behind the cancel culture. That's really what's behind the deplatforming. Bow to me. Bow to me. It'll be simple. All the pain will go away. Everything will fall in line for you. Just bow to me. As I'm recording this, the gospel reading that's coming up this Sunday is the end of Matthew chapter 9 into the beginning of chapter 10. And this is where Christ has called the apostles, and we hear them one by one, by name. And He called them, and now He's sending them out on mission. As been said, we're called, and then we're sent. And it is in that we find our individuality, our uniqueness, that specific gift from God that is our personhood. And the world wants nothing to do with that. The world wants a bunch of bland conformists. Two more, C.S. Lewis. This is him talking about Aslan, the Christ figure. And the question comes up, Aslan, is he safe? No, he's not safe, but he's good. And in 2 Corinthians, St. Paul tells us that the Spirit of God, where the Spirit is, there is freedom. True freedom, authentic freedom. You're not just licensed to go out and do whatever the heck we want, but true freedom to really step out boldly in love in all the different ways that take shape, most often by helping and caring for our brothers and sisters. And there's a lot of need out there also for speaking truth to where there's evil, to where people are really ready to step off the cliff and trying to pull them back, but in all ways in freedom with the purpose of relationship with God, relationship with neighbors, stepping forward in love. Enemy can't stand that. So those are our three layers of what's really happening. Our own fallen nature, the fallen world, then trying to capitalize on that and keeping us pinned down, knowing that by nature we tend to be sheep, and the enemy ultimately wanting this so that he can ensnare us for all eternity. So are there people that are manipulating the jurisprudence system? Sure. Are there people that are manipulating social media and all the rest of that? Sure. And they have their little agendas and they think they're spinning their webs and whatnot. They don't realize they're just pawns. They're just pawns. It's really the enemy working through them for his ultimate purposes. What do? We do what we always do. Where is our safe haven? Our safe haven is in God. Clinging to him and stepping forward boldly and prudently, of course. We're going to be innocent as doves, but wise as serpents. But boldly, Jesus, I trust in you. What is the good news here? The good news is the point that we have our own unique individuality. We have our unique personality. We have our unique vocation, our mission in life. May you be blessed as you step forward in that holy boldness, and I look forward to being with you again.